This is an excerpt from Startling Incidents and Experiences in the Christian Life by Enoch E. Byrum. Success under adverse circumstances. Among those whose fame has become worldwide on account of their power with God to prayer is Dorothea Trudel, who was born near the beginning of the 19th century and lived in Zurich, Switzerland. She was of humble parentage and passed through many privations. Judging from her natural abilities and capabilities, there was apparently nothing about her that would lead a person to think that she was likely ever to rise to prominence or renown before the world. She had a deformed body, was what is generally called a hunchback, and she did not possess what the world would call a beautiful face. Notwithstanding all these things, there was something about her life that was really beautiful and winning. The early days of her childhood spent with her Christian mother helped to prepare her for a life of usefulness in later years. She was a lover of flowers, and her flower gardens were admired by all passers-by. In her childhood days, she learned to pray and ask divine guidance in all the affairs of life. In later years, not only did she have a secret place of prayer in her home, but she communed with the Lord from time to time in secluded spots in her flower gardens. She was wont to select some of the most beautiful flowers from her garden and carry them to those who were sick in the neighborhood. These acts of kindness not only brought blessings to her soul, but also brought her more and more in contact with those who were afflicted and suffering. And from time to time she gave words of encouragement, and then retired to her secret place of prayer to ask God to relieve them of their suffering, sometimes having them to agree with her in prayer at a certain time. So remarkable were the answers and so great the benefits received by the sick that it was not long until the effects of her prayers were known to such an extent that people would send for her to come and pray for them, while others would bring the sick to her home. As she advanced in years, her faith became so strong in the Lord that she ventured to lay hands on the sick and ask God to heal them, and he honored her faith and raised them up. In a short time, her house was thronged with sick folk, and as many were healed, the medical profession were stirred because they were losing customers. She was arrested for treating the sick without license and was fined and ordered to dismiss her patients. As they were dismissed, her house was at once filled with others. In court, she testified that she used no medicine and prevented no one from using medicines, that she knew nothing about diseases, but only knew that her Savior healed every sickness. Her friends urged her to carry the case to a higher court. For some time she hesitated to do so, but they made all arrangements for the trial, and after earnest prayer she consented to have the case taken before the higher court. The affair was published and republished in different countries. Many strangers wrote her that she had many staunch friends who were offering prayers in her behalf, and told her to be of good courage and stand for the truth. When the time came for the trial, there were people present from different countries who were anxious to see her win the case, while the medical profession was united in opposing her. When the evidence had all been produced and the time came for the final decision, the court decided that there was no law to prevent anyone from praying and laying on hands for the sick. Consequently, she was acquitted, and her accusers had all costs to pay. During the trial, many persons testified in favor of divine healing, and instead of the doctors putting a stop to the work, it spread 100-fold more, and people came flocking from every direction to know more about the dealings of the Lord with the people. The secret of the success of her life was in her simple faith in God. In her places of prayer, she learned to obtain the necessary help and strength from the Almighty. As she delighted in helping others, relieving them of suffering, and doing what she could to encourage them, the Lord rewarded her. Many people are discouraged because they are not so well situated in life, nor as wealthy as other people, and for this reason consider themselves unable to become useful. Therefore, their lives are a failure. Whereas, were they to take advantage of their present opportunities, their labors would be crowned with success. Among my many correspondents was a young lady about 23 years of age, who had already reached quite a place of prominence in the world and had bright future prospects, although she had neither hands nor arms. When she was a very small child, her father, while in a drunken condition, became enraged and in order to punish her, held her arms and hands on a hot cook stove until so badly burned that both the arms had to be amputated at the shoulder. One would almost conclude that her usefulness in life was forever thwarted, but not so. She began using her toes instead of her fingers, and on account of her poverty she was forced to work and make the best of life. In a few years, she was able to do almost any kind of housework or office work. She could comb her hair, dress herself, sew, do embroidery work, and handle carpenter tools with such skill and efficiency that at an early age she had quite an assortment of furniture which she had made, having sawed the boards and driven the nails herself. From these accomplishments she had obtained a fair education, and her penmanship was to be commended. While reading her letters, I often thought, if under such adverse circumstances she has been able to make so great a success in life as to be able not only to earn her own living, obtain an education, and to secure and hold important positions, surely others who have the use of all the members of their bodies should take courage, and especially should those who have learned to trust God lay hold on his promises with a determination to be faithful servants in his vineyard and bright and shining lights to the world.